Okay, thanks for joining us again this afternoon. This should be a relatively short session. But, the first thing I'd like to sort of kick off with is a bit of a discussion within the room about assurance, both the multi-factor authentication assurance for your credentials and for the identity assurance. And what are there any regional issues that might affect how that's rolled out to your countries? Now, from Australia, we're very much like Europe, and we do things very much like assurance framework and multi-factor framework in the Asia Pacific region. And the discussion is open. Talk about assurance. And the floor is open to anyone to start the conversation. I know the Japanese guys have their own assurance framework they're working on. So we might start with those guys, you guys to start telling us about what your thoughts and ideas are for improving identity assurance in Japan. Over to you. We have a microphone. We use the microphones and we open Zoom from here. And if you want to come up front as well and talk to us, that's fine. Okay. Just an open discussion.
So I'd like to introduce a situation of current activity about identity assurance and authentication assurance in Gakunin. We have a necessity for a new trust framework in Japan. So far, Gakunin has provided a stable trust framework to academia in Japan. So far, Gakunin works well for traditional IT service, such as e-journal. There is many research communities in Japan. So such research communities require more high assurance level of identity or authenticator. So currently, Gakunin does not provide sufficient assurance level of identity and authenticator to research communities. So currently, we are investigating the framework of identity assurance and authentication assurance to provide for research communities. So currently, we have operation policy of identity assurance and authentication assurance level. We made the operation policy of identity assurance and authentication assurance in Gakunin. So as the next generation of identity access management federation in Japan. So this document is written in Japanese and also English. So we are interested in the interoperability between international federations. Of course, such as RIFED and also IGTF. We'd like to investigate interoperability between RIFED and IGTF and us. currently we have so we have no progress in such situation. But of course, no, we plan to discuss that such is a probability. So kind of and also we have already the document of operation policy of IAL and AL, but we have approved we have not approved the university in Japan not yet. So, but we believe almost the university in Japan will be satisfied and will satisfy our IAL and IAL document. But currently, we have no procedure for approval of such Gakunin IAL approved university or institution. But of course, we plan to make an official procedure for such approval. And also, in relation with identity assurance level, so we are now proceeding the experiment of identity providing service. So this identity hosting service and will the goal of identity hosting services is to increase more identity providers in Japan. So currently we have less than half of all universities and so as Gakunin Federation members. So we want to increase the number of identity providers in Japan. And of course, that's we think that a very important issue, a very important mission of current identity access management. Okay.
But a couple of things that I got from that, and that you have set up a framework for higher assurance, both credentials and identity, but you have no way at the moment or no procedure to mandate that for your members, or to say this is now the standard for your federation. So that's an issue that you need to work out as a federation operator, obviously. And you're also trying to grow your federation identity providers and looking at a hosted IDP solution to do that. So hosting or running their IDPs for them to make it simpler for them to join the federation.
Yeah.
And we've
question. So we are planning some experiment between several service provider and identity provider to have some higher level of assurance model, right?
Yeah.
all right.
So we are conducting the experiments with attending some identity providers and service providers with a high assurance level. So yes.
That's always a good way to move forward, to have a pilot and to show the outcomes of that to your community and say this has worked really well and we can prove it by having done it with a couple of IDPs and service providers and then get everybody else to start moving on board. So that's a good approach. Do you know if there's going to be any pushback from your actual users to wanting to go through a process of getting higher levels of assurance, showing their passport or doing whatever process they need to go through? you think there'll be any pushback from your researchers?
So, pushback.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. You're impinging on my privacy. Researchers are just
Yeah.
strange.
So, yes, and so we like to discuss no, and previous mentioned previous mentioned. So we'd like to discuss the interoperability on the other channels level. So, and of course, we plan to make a report of the make a report that discuss result of discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And you're also trying to make sure or trying to work out if it's compatible with the refeds frameworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, one of the services for the research data management,
Yeah.
which is also required to invite the researcher from the international perspective.
Yep.
So without having any interoperability between a European country and the United States,
It's not going to work.
Not going to happen.
Yep. Okay.
So okay. And the candidate of so we at least we have two policies, defense assurance framework and the IGTF assurance profile. So I think I think that both profiles will must be discussed. So if our policy is compatible with for example IGTF, and maybe so our policy will be compatible with assurance defense assurance framework, because I think the IGTF is compatible with defense framework.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're based on the same standards.
Yeah.
So, other discussions, or you want to go, or no? You're always willing to talk, so I'm going to point at you.
Normally, I like to ask questions rather than giving answers. Okay, so we are actually at the very nascent stage. I'm the CEO of BDN, Bangladesh Research and Education Network. We are, if you talk about assurance, then Japan is talking about individual assurance. I will talk about institutional assurance. So I am trying to gather that much assurance from my institutes. So very recently, Farhan visited Bangladesh, and that was a big leap for us. We have moved from VM-based authentication to container-based authentication, and Farhan has taught us about installing IDP as a service. So we installed it in our platform, and we have convinced 4 to 5 universities to join with us with IDP as a service.
Fantastic.
They had some reservations because of they were thinking that they are sharing their authentication database. So we assured them that your authentication database will remain with you. We are only installing IDP application as a service. So they got assured, and now the database is connected with, probably Nafiu can tell better, he's there online. 4 to 5 universities we have already established and tested the IDP service. Now the next step is to include Gestor as a service provider.
Right.
So we are very close to make our one of the institutes assured about taking this service, but that step has not yet taken up at this moment.
Right.
Till now. So we are thinking that in the next APAN meeting, 157, we will be able to share our experience with some practical service provider as gestor or Elsevier coming with our federation.
That'd be fantastic.
That's all I can say about the updates about federation in tiger trade in Bangladesh. Thanks a lot. I appreciate Farhan's visit. That was a big leap forward for us.
Okay, anyone else? Is everyone going to go quiet? Anyone online want to have a say about assurance?
Nafio, do you want to add anything?
Sir, not particularly. You have almost covered because as we're in a very basic stage. So what you have said, the universities are still concerned about sharing their data, like they're thinking about the service providers. They might steal some information or something like this. But we have assured them that this is not the case, and you can you can control about what attributes you're releasing and what attributes that you'll be sharing. And the metadata trust is also an issue in there. They're thinking about sharing they were like a little reserved about sharing their metadata. That's the I mean the culture of assurance in Bangladesh. That much I can add now.
So at the moment, you're dealing with getting the universities to accept you as a federation operator and be comfortable to then share their users' information out to services.
The IDP is
Yes.
really tested, the service is already tested.
Yeah.
But there is no service provider yet in the play.
So you're connected to EduGain. So there's those services that are available in EduGain that you can potentially use to encourage others. But the big thing that's missing is the service catalog.
Come up with some killer application. Actually.
Yeah.
So actually what applications the universities are looking for. They are very much interested in digital library or library kind of access. So once we could incorporate one of the members with the federation concept, then probably it would have exponentially, we could exponentially grow the demand and supply issue.
We've got to get that first one to step over the line.
Yes, actually the guy from India,
Raj.
yeah, he
Yep.
told me that you take one university into your federation, then you will see how the kickoff is happening.
Yep.
So we are at that process. We are stuck with that process.
Yep.
So that is the stumbling block we are facing.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone from the back want to have a say? Nope.
Yeah.
Up. Yeah.
We are interested in ID provisioning for industrial sector. So for example, the problem, the issue is how to provide identity to researcher of industry. So currently, we have some trial, for example, the method presented in your slides. So, for example, we are relying on the other identity provisioning service for governmental ID services or ORCID, except the academia identity providers. So I'd like to know how to issue the identity to industry researchers in other countries. So
And I'd like to know exactly the same thing.
With a good assurance model.
Yeah, and we're working through that at the moment. So we have a number of projects that are looking at how we engage with industry partners and also government partners. And as you said, assurance is a high part of that. And we're looking at building out some tools which will allow other players to come in. How they authenticate's going to be interesting, because you might have 2 or 3 researchers in a company. Is it worth setting up an IDP for those guys, or have them use some sort of virtual or hosted or we've got our virtual home IDP, or even use something like Google or Orchid or LinkedIn to allow them to log in, but then have somebody assert a higher level of assurance for them, saying, this researcher from company X is trusted because the university professor over here has said he trusts that person. The project over there has introduced this person to the Federation. So we're working through those processes, and the assurance stuff will certainly help us to move along in that space. But it's a 2 to 3 year runway that we've got at the moment to get that happening. But we have a lot of infrastructure people and data management folk, research data management things that want to share that data out to research, out to government. Our Australian government also has its own federation. It's a thing called Vanguard. It's sadly based on WS Fed, but I think they now have a SAML option as well. And we're looking at potentially making them as a SAML identity provider proxy to all of the government folk. But we've got a long way to go with that one as well. Again, the assurance stuff, and it's more us assuring them that the Federation is a good thing to do. They're happy to do it internally, but letting their identities out of their Federation into our Federation needs a lot of trust building to happen. But once it does happen, we'll have another 200 identity providers in our Federation with all the small little government organisations, both state, federal and local government. But it's going to be a long path to get there, but there are folk who want that. And the only reason we're doing it is because we have people who want it. If people didn't want it, we wouldn't do it. So if you're in that position that you have people wanting researchers from commercial industry to join your Federation, that's great. If you've at least made people aware that you actually exist. So that's the first step. And I think you're stuck at the point of getting your universities to be aware that you exist as an identity federation. So you've got an even longer path to travel. But hopefully by the time you get to where we're at, we will have solved some of those problems. We'll actually understand that place a lot better. Okay, any words from our gurus from GIANT, or they're just bashing their email? And
one more update, not about Federation. One more update, not about Federation. This is about EduRoam. So we have established EduRoam in our international airport in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So if you travel to Dhaka, Bangladesh, by any chance, if you become so unlucky to travel to Bangladesh, then you will get EduRoam's service at our international airport. So probably this is the second incident in Asia, first in Asia Pacific region. Kuwait probably 2 weeks back had installed it. We have installed it on 25th of June.
all right.
So that's an update from the EduRoam perspective. Thank you.
Your next challenge is to get EduRoam in your hospitals.
Yeah, hospitals, and we have many other airports. So next challenge is to make sure that all the airports are covered, and then we will move to hospitals and other areas. But the main application or the main uses of EduRoam is at the airports, because as soon as you land over there, you don't have internet. And at that time, even to seek a driver or to communicate with your hotel, you need an internet connectivity.
Yep.
It is not, Wi-Fi is not free in our country. It is free, but you have to have a SIM.
Right.
So that they can identify you. Through that SIM, you will get a one-time password, and with that password, you can log in. So now, as soon as you land, you will be able to get a room. So that is a big development. And in the first week, we took the data, around 725 persons got logged into room service.
That's
So
very good.
it has increased. At this moment, it is more than that.
Fantastic. Okay. So unless there's any more discussion, or Nicole or Casper want to say anything?
So Casper and I are running. On Thursday, Casper and I are running a session talking about open source. But as part of that, we are going to talk a little bit about some work we're trying to do to put together a federation starter pack of really useful services for new federations that will hopefully make it easy for them to adopt those services and also promote them out to an IDP to really show the value. So there's a pre-configured set of services which show the value of federation. We're only just starting on that, so it's not available now, unfortunately, but we're going to give a little bit of an overview of our thoughts, and we'd love people's feedback on that, and hopefully talk about that here more once we've developed it out a bit further. This was a brainchild of TNC this year. I think we first started talking about it with our colleagues at Nordinet.
That sounds really good, because I've been thinking of doing similar for our test federation, just having some services that people can try and test their IDPs against, something like a red cap service, just sitting there with no data in it, but just there for authentication purposes, that they can see, oh, I can do that, and have some sort of data management thing. Oh, I can do that. All empty and just skeletons, but at least showing people that these are the types of services they can plug into in our test environment before they actually move into our production environment.
When Farhan visited Bangladesh, he suggested it, and Nafio has already implemented it.
Yep. Okay, good point. Okay, so back to the grind. One more session, one more chat or talk. This is around actually configuring the refeds assurance with a shibboleth IDP. And this is very simple, this one. So it's a technical session, configuration settings for shibboleth IDP to support the refeds assurance framework. It's around setting the eduperson assurance value with appropriate values based on information collected by the university. So the IDP doesn't really have to do much work, just has to translate what the university is providing it when the user's data comes across into the appropriate values. So specifically around the shibboleth IDP, and I know that in our region, most federations are utilizing that particular IDP software. It also assumes that the university has done its job and has provided some way to do the identity verification and issuing unique user identifiers. It also assumes that the IDP's unique identifiers are that the IDP uses those unique identifiers to generate other unique identifiers used within the federation. So a unique identifier provided by the university will be used to generate the targeted ID, the sample name ID, the subject ID, pairwise ID, and eduperson principal name. And that's how we've tried to train you guys to do that in the past. So we have this single identifier coming from the university, and then we get shibboleth to do the hard work of transforming it into these particular formats. And the attribute quality and freshness, we're not going to consider that at this time because it just doesn't make sense to me. So generating the eduperson assurance value, all that needs to be done is to generate appropriate values for the assurance. The standard itself just has a bunch of values that need to be populated. So what we're dealing with within the Shibboleth configuration itself is the attribute resolver, and specifically around setting values for eduperson assurance. And the easiest way is to write a small script. It takes whatever you get from the university and turns it into the appropriate values for use by the Federation. So it's consuming one data element from the university. It's the results of the identity verification. So to start with, the first value that we're going to populate into the eduperson assurance attribute is this one, https://refeds.org/assurance. And all that's really saying from the profiles point of view is that this IDP is doing some sort of identity assurance. It doesn't matter if you don't populate anything else, it just says something is happening and the service providers can take that and do with it as they will. So it can be the only value provided. If there has been no assurance, particularly say you've got a student coming on board and they haven't done any identity any stuff, we've at least got an indication that something has happened in the background. Generally, it won't be the only value populated. There will also be other values provided. So the next one is about the unique ID. So if the unique IDs meet the requirements of the profile, then we can populate into the assurance value assurance/ID/unique and add that to the set of values that are coming across. And as most of our identity providers are using a unique ID that meets the criteria, and that ID is used to generate the other identifiers that are of interest to the profile, we should be able to assert this fairly simply, saying that we are doing unique identifiers for our people. And in the AF, that's one of our requirements for being an identity provider, that you have a unique identifier that we can then use to source as the source of the other identifiers of interest. The unique eduperson principal name, unique, no reassign. Similarly, we're using the same identifier from the university to generate the EPPN. So we can fairly easily assert that eduperson unique, no reassign is the case. I'm hoping never to have an IDP use the other one of it will be safe for just 1 year, because that's also difficult. The assurance levels, and again, this is going to be based on a value that's coming across from your university. And it will say either nothing, low, medium, or high. So one or more values will be provided. And if they only provide high, for example, so we know this researcher has a high level of identity assurance, the IDP will need to fill in the blanks, because if you have high, they're also medium, they're also low. We need to provide all three values to the maximum value that they've actually been assured to. The local enterprise value, there should not be a second IAP in there, that should be only one. If indicated by the university, then add this value. So it's really up to the university if they want to populate that one, and they'll need to have a look at the profile to see if it's appropriate for any of their particular users to have that value set. I haven't really spoken about this one much because it's, yeah, that again. And finally, for the, what do we got? The, can't even remember what it was called anymore. It's the length of time that an attribute will stay active, or when the user is going to actually finish at the university. For the moment, Australian Access Federation, we're just going to ignore this one, and hopefully one day it might go away, or something better will appear. It just doesn't make sense to us at the moment. There are a couple of other interesting values that are provided, the cappuccino and espresso. And this is just to provide a summary of the assurance levels that have been met by the user. So somebody's having a cappuccino if they're both unique or if they're unique. But unique identifiers, they're at least a low level of identity assurance or a medium level of identity assurance. So no, sorry, they need to be both low and medium. For Espresso, they've drunk more coffee during the day and they've actually got a high level of identity assurance, plus low, plus medium, plus unique. So those are just summary type values. And the other one, which is about version 2, this is how they're dealing with the different versions. So all claims expressed in the version in the namespace are based on the version 2 of the assurance framework, which is very similar to version 1, but there are some differences. So to indicate that you're actually working at version 2, you provide this particular value. This will need to wait until the framework has actually been released, and you need to verify that your university is actually working to that framework. I've run out of slides. I thought I had more. I must have stopped. So effectively, what we're doing is adding values to the EduPerson assurance attribute. Let's see if we can have a look at that was. This is the actual framework diving into now. Let's make it a wee bit bigger. I think there's an example. So here are all of the values that can be expressed. The prefix is actually the name of the profile. So you just replace prefix with https refeds.org/RAF, etc. And then you sort of tack them in. So you got unique and no reassign. It's all pretty simple. And what I'm planning to do with our IDP installer, which is our tool to install IDPs, is to provide a script that will do this stuff for you out of the box. It just requires some input attribute about the high, low, or medium level of assurance. So each of your IDPs will be needing to be updated to have the EduPerson affiliation value created and maintained from your IDP. But it should not be a big piece of work. All the hard work is going to be done by your actual universities to provide that source value into the system. So from a technical point of view, this one's a lot easier than MFA for the actual producing the value. Getting a value to source from is the hard part. So your technology is simple. The policy side of things and getting the university to do that's the hard stuff. So that's it. There'll be examples about this stuff. There's a whole frequently asked questions section on this stuff. So as I said this morning, start experimenting, start trying stuff, just like the Japanese Federation are doing. Have a pilot, have a service out there that might want this stuff and see how it goes, and get people aware that you're actually doing this. It makes it easier if they know this stuff is coming well in advance. So we're going to finish at 4:30. You get an extra half hour to the day. I'm going to check out the kites down the road at the park or whatever, have a sleep. Thanks for your participation today, and thanks for attending. I hope you've got something useful out of today. Tomorrow is going to be more technical stuff. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying, for those who did stay. It's a bit dry, some of this stuff, so it can be hard work. Okay, thank you. And thanks to our technical team down the back who have kept the videos going. Well done.